factors to consider to ensure you're collecting viable seeds from the right areas of the right woodlands that will grow into strong, healthy trees. In this episode, you'll find out all the details behind collecting your seeds.
Moor trees collect seeds from ancient semi-natural woodlands and old hedgerows. And to find these, over the years, what we've done, we've looked at old maps and found where woodlands have been for a very long time, certainly since 1600. We then look to see whether that woodland is owned by the public, is it owned by the Wildlife Trust or by the National Trust, or is it in private ownership? And we then approach those landowners to ask permission to collect seeds from certain trees. Once we have that permission, we'll have a walk around that site to see what trees are actually growing there. What we're looking for is woodland that has many different kinds of native broadleaf tree species, or indeed many different trees of the same species. It is always worth visiting your woodland some number of weeks before you think the seed is going to be ripe. And it's worth doing this so you know when to visit at the right time. When you're getting your permission from the landowner, you must also remember for some tree species, for example, beech, oak, alder, birch, wild cherry, you need to contact the Forestry Commission and let them know that you're going to be collecting these tree seeds, and there's more information on this in the guide. Once you've found your site and you know where you want to go seed collecting, you actually need very little to help you do that. You need a container. This painter's bucket works very well for us. Other people carry bags, paper bags, and so forth. Now remember, if you're collecting more than one type of tree species, bring different containers, because sorting them out afterwards can be somewhat onerous. You may also need a stick, and this is going to be used for hooking those branches that are a little bit out of reach. And if you're really ambitious, something like this, which can get those very hard to reach branches and just bring them within grasp. Other tools you may wish to consider, a pair of secateurs, particularly when it comes to holly, because that can be a bit of a divil to seed collect from. When you go to collect seed, you may be tempted to go right into the middle of the woodland, and this actually isn't always the best place. The better places are often along the edges, along the footpaths. And at this point, a lot of the branches are much closer to the ground, so the seeds are easier to reach. There's a lot more light onto the tree, so that side of the tree generally is producing a lot more seed too. It is really tempting when you find a good seed tree, a tree that has a lot of seed, that you just want to take all the seed from that tree. But that again is not a good idea. This is about genetic diversity. It is really good to take seed, for example, from an oak tree over here, an oak tree over there, and an oak tree over there, rather than just concentrate on one tree. This allows much more genetic diversity within the seeds that you are collecting. Genetic diversity is important because this means that the future trees will have better resistance to pests and diseases. For the greatest genetic diversity, it is also sensible to collect from different woodlands or different hedgerows that are miles apart but still within the same local area. When you're collecting nuts, it's often worth looking underneath the tree. Some of those that you find may be like this, and they'll be a few years old, rotted, and no good to us. Others, they've already been eaten, and these are squirrels that have opened up the husk around the seed and they've taken it. But there are still others that remain. These are solid, and they may well have a nut within them. The problem is the squirrels are cleverer than us. They may recognize there isn't a good seed inside and they'll discard it. But we don't know. So we'll pop them in a bucket of water. The ones that sink usually have a nut in them. The ones that float, because there's more air in the nut, usually don't. These are the fleshy fruit of the Guelder rose, and inside these are the stones, and it's the stone that we want because that ultimately is the seed that's going to grow into another Guelder rose. They are, at this time of year, really squishy, and so rather than pick the fruit, it's better to pick the whole bract. And also they really do smell when they're squished. This is dog rose. There are other wild roses, but quite a lot of those have also been made into cultivars in gardens, and some of those have escaped. But this is our native wild rose, which you will definitely find in the woodlands. But it is a climber, so you'll find it climbing amongst other vegetation, and sometimes that can make it hard to spot. It has pink flowers in the summertime, but this time of year you get these rose hips. They do go a brilliant bright red, and when you pick a soft one, you'll find that you squish it and the seeds will just pop out. And it's actually, these are the seeds that we need to then grow into more trees. The birch trees are one of our canopy trees within our woodlands. And in this country, we have two native birches, the silver birch and the downy birch. And they have catkins. And then each of these catkins has hundreds and hundreds of seeds in them. They're wind dispersed, so when the wind blows, that means that the seeds will get blown away. This is the spindle tree. It's the only tree that I've seen that's native to Britain that when the branches get to about this age, they're quite cubic in their shape. It's surprising that for such a small tree it can be so long-lived, often up to 100 years. So we collect the seeds and you'll find them as a 4. Sometimes you do find them as a 3 and a 2, but they generally do come as a 4. And each one of those is a seed. And that seed is bright orange. And it's October time now, and the seeds are turning to this crimson colour, and that is the perfect time to be collecting them. In Britain, we have 2 oak trees. We have the English oak and the sessile oak. And you may be thinking, how do I tell the difference? Well, sessile means stalkless, and that means that the acorns themselves and the cups of the acorns are attached directly onto the twig, i.e. they don't have a stalk. Another way to remember it, though confusingly, is the leaves themselves, the petiole on a sessile is long. They have a long stalk on the leaf, but no stalk on the acorn. So this tree is a sessile oak. With the oak trees, unfortunately, this year is a year where there are almost no acorns anywhere. And it's suffered from powdery mildew. There's been lots of galls. Last year was a year where we had lots and lots and lots of acorns, and that's what we would call a mast year. And I think the tree is just resting this year. So sadly, no acorns.
It's incredible to think that these beautiful tiny packages contain all the knowledge and potential to grow into huge trees that will provide homes and protection for many other animals, and so many benefits for us too. In the next episode, we'll discover how they need to be treated to ensure they germinate, ready for planting out in the spring.